Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Bayonne Planning Board meeting for the month of June. At this time, we'll call the meeting to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. Commissioner Quintella is absent. Commissioner Becker is absent. Commissioner Locke. Commissioner Majorano.
Is absent.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Booker.
Here.
Commissioner Veloz.
Here.
Vice Chair Vallado.
Here.
Chairperson Fiamonte.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. All rise for the pledge. Okay. Next on the agenda, we'll read the Open Public Meetings Act, Sunshine Law. This regular meeting of the City of Bayonne Planning Board has complied with the Open Public Meetings Act, Sunshine Law. Annual notices of the schedule of regular meetings were published in both Jersey Journal and Star Ledger newspaper. The schedule of regular meetings for calendar year 2025 is filed with the City Clerk's office. A copy of the agenda of tonight's meeting was emailed to the Star Ledger at least 48 hours prior to this meeting and is posted on the bulletin board in the lobby of the municipal building and the City of Bayonne website. At this time, we have the adoption of minutes. Okay, all right. So we will move along. Thank you. And I do not see any communications. Do we have any?
We don't have any explicit communications, but because of the time constraints tonight, we have a number of matters that are listed for being heard tonight, but I think they need to be carried. So I would start to put those in the record and ask the board to vote to carry these matters without any further notice on the part of the city or the applicant, as the case may be. The first is P24-020, and that was the presentation of a non-condemnation area need of study for property located at 47 East 41st Street, 653-657 Avenue E, 659 Avenue E, blocks 98, lots 13, 14, and 15. We would like to carry that matter to the meeting of 8/12.
Okay.
Without any further notice. Can I get a motion and a second?
I'll move.
I'll second.
And on the vote?
On the vote, Chairperson Fiamonte.
Aye.
Vice Chair Vallado.
Aye.
Commissioner Veloz.
Aye.
Commissioner Booker.
Aye.
Commissioner Locke. Next on the agenda is P-24-025, presentation of a non-condemnation area need of redevelopment study for property located at 1191-1197 Kennedy Boulevard in City Block, lots 10, 11, and 12. We'd like to carry that matter to the July 8th agenda. Can I get a motion and a second to carry that to that
I'll move.
date?
And on the vote?
Chairperson Fiamonte.
Aye.
Vice Chair Vallado.
Aye.
Commissioner Veloz.
Aye.
Commissioner Booker.
Aye.
Commissioner Locke. Okay, next on the agenda is P-24-027, presentation of a non-condemnation area need of redevelopment study for property located at 81-87-East 22nd Street in City Block 449, lots 6 and 7.01. This matter should be carried to the July 8th agenda as well. Can I get a motion and a second?
I'll move.
I'll second.
And on the vote, Chairperson Fiamonte.
Aye.
Vice Chair Vallado.
Aye.
Commissioner Veloz.
Aye.
Commissioner Booker.
Aye.
Commissioner Locke. Okay, next on the agenda is P-24-016, presentation of a redevelopment plan for property located at 745 and 747 Broadway in City Block 139, lots 18 and 19. This matter should be carried to the July 8th agenda without any further notice required.
I'll move.
Second.
And on the vote?
Commissioner Locke. Commissioner Booker.
Aye.
Commissioner Veloz.
Aye.
Vice Chair Vallado.
Aye.
Chairperson Fiamonte.
Aye.
Next on the agenda is P-25-012. That's a non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment for property located at 120 123-122 West 33rd Street in City Block 143, Lot 28. And we'd like to carry that to the July 8th agenda as well. Can I get a motion and a second?
I'll move.
I'll second.
And on the vote, Commissioner Locke? Commissioner Booker?
Aye.
Commissioner Veloz?
Aye.
Vice Chair Verlato?
Aye.
Chairperson Fiamonte?
Aye. Next on the agenda, I believe we're back at item 7.
We are at item number 7, that's P25-021, special presentation of master plan amendment, affordable housing fourth round update, housing element and fair share plan, along with spending plan, presentations by Mr. Brian Slough and Derek Orth of the consulting council in this matter.
Good evening, Mr. Slough.
Good evening, Chairperson Fiamonte. How are you this evening?
I am well, thank you. And yourself?
Oh, peachy. This is, let's see, I have one more housing plan to write up and then the public hearing. So after 10 others, it's nice to get them towards the end.
Sounds good.
But we have a good plan here. And this is a master plan element. So it's like the chapters in a book. It's like one of the chapters in the book of the master plan for Bayonne. This one deals with housing, and primarily affordable housing because of the strictures of the Fair Housing Act, as well as various court decisions that have led us to this point. We're in what's called the fourth round, conveniently following the third round, so that's good. And we're required, if we're going to participate in the round, to have an adopted plan by June the 30th. This schedule was put together by the legislature in the amended act back in March of 2024. Leading up to this point, the City Council agreed with the Department of Community Affairs calculation of what the city's obligations for the fourth round would be. And so, and that declaration was made in towards the end of January and filed by Mr. Orth, who is here this evening too. And that then was sent into what's called the Dispute Resolution Program in the judiciary, also set up by the amendments to the law. And there were no challenges to the municipal numbers. So that means that those numbers are now set for the fourth round and are effectively not challengeable. We did not really have any challenges previously in other housing plans either. And that's because Bayonne is what's called a qualified urban aid municipality. And what that means is that there's two main components to these housing plans that we do, these obligations, as I mentioned. One is what's called the present need, or the rehabilitation component, where you're addressing people living in substandard housing. And through renovation, you can address those needs and create safe, decent, affordable housing for them. And then the second part's called the prospective need, and that's a new construction component. Most municipalities in the state have this new construction component, but when you're a qualified urban aid municipality like Bayonne, you do not have one. So the plan only needs to address what's called present need. And so those numbers are 749 units, which sounds like a lot of units to rehab or renovate. But the fact of the matter is that those activities have been taking place for some time. And the way the present need numbers are figured start from effectively the 2020 census and are projected forward. And so this time period right now we're in is kind of that midpoint. So we're able to count activities that have taken place up until this time in the rehabilitation components. And when we do that, we find that in fact, the city has already met this 749 units of rehabilitated property within the city. And I'll go through what those are in just a moment. So that 749 units, so we're contemplates that there are certain projects that are counted that are being undertaken by the Bayonne Housing Authority, which are not quite completed, but would be anticipated to be completed no later than 2026, which we can count also. So there isn't any more that you would have to do in terms of the plan, aside from putting this into that dispute resolution program. But there is an interest within the city to continue doing more rehabilitation because there's seen a real need for it. Plus, you've been collecting fees through the development impact fee ordinance. And in Bayonne, it's all been non-residential development fees. And so I'll discuss that as part of the spending plan in just a little bit. So the components of how we meet this is the city has participated with Hudson County in what they call their home front rehabilitation program for owner-occupied dwelling units. There hasn't been a lot rehabilitated per se, but people within Bayonne can apply to the county, and if the units meet certain criteria on income, limits what you can do in terms of selling it in the next 10 years. You have to repay back some of the loan if you sell it before the 10 years, but in the end, it ends up being a forgivable loan. And they're typically costs are averaging around $20,000 or so. A little bit more now that we have the actual information. Construction costs are rising, and that means a lot of different places. That's the same. But 4 units come from that rehabilitation work. Then there's the Bayonne Housing Authority's work that I had mentioned before. And so they're undertaking renovations of a number of their developments. So Back Bay Gardens, Pamrapo, thank you. Gardens, as well as Pamrapo Gardens Annex, Bergen Park Gardens, Centerville Gardens, La Tourette Gardens. And when you count all of those up, that's 792 units alone that the Bayonne Housing Authority will be renovating in this 4th round period. And the municipality is able to take credit for that work, even though they haven't funded any of that. All the people that are in it, low and moderate income households, it's a rental project, so rehabilitation projects have to be open to both owner-occupied as well as rental projects. So this satisfies that side of it. Then there's also, they're intending and anticipating additional funding to do additional rehabilitation. So I had talked to John Mahan just 2 weeks ago. He indicated that another $4 million was coming from HUD for rehabilitation purposes to continue with their program. So there will be even more units that can be credited towards that. So that's good news for the city. Then there's also, because there's still a demonstrated need, and the city's rehabilitation had done a rehabilitation program for a while, but not for the past number of years, is to establish a program with the Bayonne Housing Authority. And the thought behind that is this, is that they're used to dealing with projects, with contractors, with real estate professionals, and putting these projects together. And they have a track record of doing them correctly and on time. It's a well-run housing authority, and I have experience with lots of different housing authorities throughout the state, and you really have one of the best housing authorities in New Jersey here in Bayonne. So they have the expertise to address this and have something that's more focused in Bayonne on owner-occupied within 1 to 3 unit buildings, and that could be somebody who owns, say, they own a building that they're living in and that they rent out half of it. And that's a pretty common phenomena in the city. And this would provide money for that tenant to, or themselves, to be able to help renovate that space and for a no-cost loan and other particulars that will be set up in a new program. And so the plan targets 50 units on that basis. It would also be open to small landlords, because what you find is that the smaller landlords who own 4 units or own 6 units, or maybe they have a couple buildings like that, really don't have the capital to help renovate places at the kind of interest rates that we're seeing today. And so this would be a program that could also be open to people in that situation. They meet the criteria, their tenants meet the criteria, and there are also program requirements that are set by the law and the rules that the state sets out. Meet those criteria, then they would also be eligible for money to help renovate the major systems typically. So we're talking about like the roof, the heater needs to be replaced, the plumbing dates from 1920, and they need to get that galvanized pipe out of there, put some proper copper PEX in, that type of thing. It's for these kind of major systems, and maintain the housing stock in the city. Because as we know, we hear from people that there's certainly a need for clean, safe, affordable housing, and this would help do that. And with renter-occupied housing, about 2/3 of the housing units in the city, that's a large percentage. And so this would be targeted for the smaller landlords who might not otherwise have access to capital to do this. So that's how the program is envisioned. There are other things, because of the compressed time frame we're living in, that will have to come later, and that there's going to need to be an agreement set up with the housing authority. That'll take some time to work through those legal necessities. There's a rehabilitation manual that has been put in the back as a draft. I'm sure that they would want to probably tweak that, but it's put in here to show how such a program could operate. And that was seen as being a more positive aspect than just saying, oh, we have enough credits and we're not going to do any more. It also happens that the municipality was involved with the Plattykill Manor Apartments, and this was a project that it's called Project-Specific Section 8 certificates, which means you might have heard of Section 8, where that is people have a voucher that they obtain because they meet certain income requirements, and they look to get housing in the private market. And if they are able to obtain that housing, then the difference between what they can afford under their income and what is paid to the landlord, that difference is paid in a Section 8 voucher to the landlord from fair market rents. So this is a little different in that Section 8 also has another part which deals with projects tied to a specific project, which Plattykill Manor has. So back in 2018, the company that owns it was seeking an additional pilot agreement, and the city agreed to that. But and so that meant that they needed to reimpose controls on income there. And so they did impose those income controls because the city granted them another 10 years of tax abatement. Because of that, and the fact that they then renovated their building to the tune of $26,000 a unit, means that we can also count this towards our present need obligation. So that's 146 credits. We're not even done with all the credits yet. So the city has done a lot so far. So the other one is that the city administration was approached by the Bayonne Family Community Center, might be better known as the former YMCA building. And that was a Rockefeller building, apparently, constructed back in the 20s. So it has good bones, but those bones don't last forever. And while that was converted from the YMCA to this, what's called single-room occupancy, where they're all efficiencies, that renovation wasn't sufficient during the conversion to really take care of all the building issues. It kind of took care of some of them to the degree that they could under the money that was available at the time. Well, that was back in 2005, and now, in the fourth round, now that 20 years has passed, we can also use that project for rehabilitation present need credit. So that's what is proposed to do. The building needs a substantial amount of help. And so the plan, because there's plenty of money in this spending plan, earmarks $30,000 per unit for that, which would give 109 credits towards the rehabilitation goal in the city. So some of the reasons behind that are, it's the only SRO facility in Hudson County. It fills a pretty substantial need. And if that facility has to close, then the question is, what happens to the people that live in it now? And clearly there would need to be also an agreement. There had to be a building assessment of what actually needed to be done. There's been some initial discussions about that. There's a list of items that need to be done that's in the back. And it isn't necessarily everything that they would want necessarily, because they also have the ability to fundraise too for things that they want to see done also. But this would provide a substantial boost towards renovating that building and making sure that it can still house the SRO as well as the other community functions that it already houses. So it would be a benefit not only on that front, but also on the community benefits that it has and takes care of, and make those facilities better too. So we thought that that seemed like a good use of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund money. And then the last item to discuss is the city helped sponsor a project that was a joint venture between the Bayonne Housing Authority and the Bergen County United Way. Bergen County United Way is well known in the affordable housing field for developing affordable housing up here in the northeast part of the state. And so this is the 100% affordable housing building that's under construction now on West Oak Court for 40 units, half senior, half special needs. And so they gained tax credits, documentation for that's in here too. And so though they're new credits, and they could be used for new construction credit, as I said earlier, there's no obligation for the city for new construction credits. But new construction can also be used towards the present need rehabilitation share. So when you add up all these, as I said earlier, we have 982 credits towards our obligation. We meet fully the obligation of the city in the plan. So then I think maybe the other thing to focus on here is the fact that there's also a spending plan, and that's the last appendix in the book. So the projection of funds meant not too many years ago, the amount of money in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund was maybe $1 million, and not a lot of money. But in the last few years, it's actually a fair amount of money has been collected, and thanks to Mr. Orth and his firm collecting additional money that was owed to the city in the past and had not been paid. So they took over some, if you like, uncollected prior fees that should have been paid. And the projections that we see, a lot of money, for example, will need to be paid by the movie studio. And I would say again that this non-residential impact fee is in state law. This is not something the city is imposing. This is something that the state imposed back in 2008, so quite a few years ago. But the amount of money is pretty considerable, and so we're at this point at the end of December having collected in excess of $15 million instead of that $1 million I mentioned before. And if you look at the revenue projections, we anticipate that eventually, and I'm looking here at the table SP2, we project another $40 million in fees to be collected just from the things we know about in the fourth round, which starts in July. So that's a substantial amount of money. And so what we would do and have said in here is that the city, because this money can only be spent on affordable housing purposes, it can't be spent on something else. And if we don't spend it, the state's going to want to come and take it back to put into their affordable housing trust fund, which I know, as good upstanding Bayonne citizens, you would not want them to do. You would want to keep that money right here. There's plenty of opportunities to explore new construction in affordable housing projects. You may sound like, well, that's a lot of money if you think about it, but housing cost for construction is quite expensive for that too. I think the pro forma for the 40 units on Oak Street is about $400,000 a unit for apartments. So that's a $16 million project for 40. So it gives you some sense of the cost implications here for such projects. And it doesn't mean that the city would be funding that all on its own. It could leverage its money with affordable housing developers who are used to the specialization, and it could, say, provide top-up money or pre-development money, or making the facade nicer money. Even that has happened, which it could do through this Affordable Housing Trust Fund, because we anticipate a lot of money coming in on this, which has to be collected by state law. We might as well use it here in Bayonne for the betterment of Bayonne citizens. So that's the overall picture of the housing, the fourth round housing plan. So what I would ask you to do, after we get through questions about the plan, is if it looks acceptable to you, it's your document to adopt. And so that would be something that we would seek from you this evening, because it has to be filed by June 30th. From here, it would go to City Council for what's called endorsement, and the City Council also approves the spending plan. That's their document, because it's money coming from the city or out of the city. And so the law makes the spending plan the creature of the governing body. But the housing plan itself is your document. So this is your opportunity then to ask questions, and then we can open up to the public.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Slaw. Thank you for that comprehensive presentation. This is always one of those topics that comes up, whether it be in public. So I think it was, definitely something good that those watching at home or anyone sitting in the audience and everyone up here to really understand the work that the city has done to, satisfy this. So thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Commissioners, are there any questions? Nope. Sure.
Yes, hi.
Mr. Lack.
How are you? So I just had a couple questions. So we have a surplus of units. I wanted to know if those units, would they carry over, or any new units that we, develop within this 10 years, would they carry over if we had any need in this next term or no?
So because it's a qualified urban aid municipality and it does not have this new construction component, it's only the new construction surplus that would count. So the fact that we're going over on the rehabilitation component doesn't help us in the fifth round. But let me say this. Say fifth round changes. Bayonne no longer is a qualified urban aid municipality, and it has a new housing component. You can rearrange this and, for example, put the Oak Street project into the fifth round and count it as new housing construction at that point. So, and we would still have met our present need, rehabilitation need, with the fourth round.
Okay, all right. And so because we met that, legal requirement within this current round, does that mean that we would stop collecting on these non-residential contributions?
No, it still means we still collect on them because that's what the state law says we have to do with it. And what it does for the city is it allows it to go beyond just what the state says your obligations are. And I think we've heard at this board, and from what I understand also at city council, about the concerns about affordability for a lot of people, and that they're being squeezed by rising rents and general inflation. And so if we could provide more affordable housing, either through rehabilitating units and they're being rented to them, or if there's new construction that could happen because we have funds to help boost that project along, then I think that, I think what I've heard is a lot of interest here to do that in the city.
Okay, thank you. You have another question? Sure, go ahead.
And so how long so once the money is collected, how long do you have to commit those funds?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah, so there's the spending plan functions as a commitment for that 4 years. And so we would clearly have the programs that are envisioned here up and running. But then the other thing is you'd have that period of time to also engage and think about new projects that could be undertaken and commit those funds at that time, and then it would be 4 years from that time. So say we had another developer interested in building another Oak Street project. And so we would want to help them with pre-development money, or maybe assembling property, or maybe bringing utilities. All those things are proper uses of the money in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And that way, then you would be able to assist them in getting tax credits, because in tax credit, those are applications that are made and they rank projects. And one of the things that helps in ranking is what's the municipal support level. So if you have more support level, more chance to get low-income housing tax credits to make that project viable for the affordable housing developer.
Sorry, last one. This is the last one. Okay, so what are the next steps, and like, what does that timeline look like? So it seems like we have a surplus, so there's no legal need, but we're still actively collecting funds because we have to legally. And this fair share plan counts as a commitment towards that, but there's still more funds that are coming in. And so assuming that this gets adopted, goes to council, goes to state and comes back, what does that like plan look like in terms of?
So there will be a period of July and August where someone who would object to the plan can challenge it in court, effectively. And then, so we'll know that by the end of August. There are implementing things that need to occur. For example, there's an affordable housing ordinance that needs to be implemented here, an agreement to work out with the Bayonne Housing Authority on the rehab program, another agreement to work out with the Bayonne Family Community Center. So all those things will need to be done, and they'll probably take, 6 months to a year to work out. Looking at past agreements, let's put it that way. The attorneys get involved, and then who knows how long it'll take.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Just want to make sure. They were all very good questions. Thank you, Commissioner Locke. No questions?
I do have a
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
I've been trying to understand the affordable housing,
Sir.
especially in Bayonne. Jersey City has inclusionary zoning ordinance where the developers have to provide certain percentage
Yes.
for affordable housing.
Yes.
That means in Bayonne, that will exist or no longer, because I know that the city received money in lieu of affordable housing, the developers. If that will continue like that with this, what you explain now?
So there's a couple of things in the question you asked. So inclusionary, there are two main ways of addressing affordable housing in the state. Two big ways. One is, as you described, inclusionary housing development that's a part of regular market rate housing. Typically, that ratio is a 15% for rental, 20% for sale, like if it was a condominium building, or in the suburbs, it was, single-family detached or attached housing. And so that percentage then would get constructed as part of a development that came in. There's not, that's would be considered new construction. The other one is this 100% affordable, typically needs subsidized governmental funding. The most popular program of that is the federal low-income housing tax credit program, which means that the state under annual or biannual federal disbursements gets so many tax credits that they can then disperse. That's run in the state by the Housing Mortgage and Finance Agency. So they set the criteria, they select who gets that funding, and then that's used along with usually typically other funding that's available at lower cost. For example, banks may have to assist with below market interest rates to help with their own community reinvestment requirements for their banking license. So that could come into play there when they would have a loan on that basis. So that means those are the two main ways of addressing a new construction component. So here, we don't have that new construction component, yet the city is interested in trying to have new construction built. So the city could have some percentage of housing. Doesn't have to be those percentages I talked to you about. That's just the norm, but it could be some lower percentage if say, city council wanted to explore that. It's a matter of really, in redevelopment plans, there's the service charge, so it depends effectively how you want the service charge to be set up. So the service charge could be, well, that service charge, we're gonna say some of that could go towards that internal subsidy for lowering the cost in doing inclusionary housing. Or we could just keep it the way it is, where that service charge comes to the city. So that's a policy decision that nothing in here would prevent from happening. There's nothing in here that would stop that from happening if that was a desire of city council.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, good question. Okay, Ms. Mack, anything that you wish?
Yeah, I do have a few comments. I just wanted to put in some perspective for the board, some things that maybe you're not as familiar with. So prior to 2015, we did collect, and we did do the, if you had 100 units, you had to have 7 units on site. When I came here in 2014 from the base, the last collection I did under that, which I think the regs are still in place, I collected $165,000 from the Callies for the Parkview building on Kennedy Boulevard. They built some of the units in site, and they paid into the fund for the rest. We also, on the base, we have affordable housing in the Harborview Point project. So we have had affordable housing obligations where we had to build new. In 2015, and this is why it's so important that Derek Orth is here. Derek Orth represents Inglesino and John Wilkesala. They are affordable housing attorneys. In 2015, with Brian's help, they put together, the rules changed in 2015. The rules changed, and instead of going to COA, which is the Council on Affordable Housing, which we all heard about forever, they determined that the courts in each of the counties would decide. They would administer the program. And so Mr. Slough and Mr. Orth, Mr. Wilkesala, Mr. Inglesino, the partner there, they put together something that for Bayonne that went to the Hudson County Superior Court. And so now our plan is actually under the court, which is a good thing for us. We have good access to them. But the materials that Mr. Slough and Mr. Orth put together were well received, and therefore when they came out with the new regulations, they said we didn't have a new obligation. We had a rehab obligation. The reason I bring this up is because Brian is discussing some of these programs that this planning board this planning board has taken action from 215 to 225. The first thing you did is you have to approve the spending plan. So Brian's talking about a lot of things that are going in the spending plan. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. That means you don't have to go back to the court if you've already identified it. Otherwise, if you put something new in, Derek will go back into court, he'll amend the spending plan. So we're talking about $3 million for the community center for the Y. We're talking about $7 or $8 million for the housing authority. By putting it into the plan, you take a prospective look, and so then the court comes back and says, oh, that's in the plan, so that's a good thing. So I wanted to point that out, but also, 2 years ago, this board was very much involved, not only in the 7 Oak Street project for the housing authority. You approved the redevelopment plan, and then you approved the site plan. So this board is intimately involved in implementing whatever Bayonne does, and that's a good thing because you do all of the planning. The other thing is, I totally agree with Brian that it's very critical that we do not put 109 units of SROs, single room occupancies, out on the street. So that's a wonderful thing to rehab. But the thing that I like most about this plan, so we all say we met our requirement. Now, that's good, but this is a 10-year plan. So I don't think it's our goal is to meet the requirement and just push it aside. Our goal is to meet our requirement, because that's a good thing, but also to look ahead. And that's why Brian is like mentioning things all over the array of different possibilities. This funding can be used for senior housing. This funding can be used for veterans housing. This, a very important piece for me, the home funding from the county. The county provides 80% of the funds, but they need the 20% match. Most of those units are owner occupied. So, this is the type of thing we want to look at for Bayonne, and Brian has really put together an array of things. I just wanted to point out that this planning board has been intimately involved in advancing the plan the last 10 years, and with Mr. Orth was just before Judge Tarula. I think it would be good if he just, mentions that, because we did have to go in this summer.
Ms. Mack, I had a conversation with Mr. Orth, and he's comfortable with what Mr. Slough has presented. And as you know, we have a bit of a time constraint tonight.
I just want to thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Mack.
Open it up to the audience. Yep.
At this time, if there's any members of the audience that have a question, please come forward. Yes.
Ihab Gamal, 128 West 2nd Street, and also
Hold on. Introduce yourself to the, although we know who you are, you have to put it on the record.
Okay, Ihab Gamal, 128 West 2nd Street, and also
Mr.
I
Gamal,
own 9 acres.
as a former member of the zoning board, you understand the rules.
Yes.
Present your question to the person that was presenting the testimony, okay?
Yes. Also, I'm one of the developer. I own 9 acres in 35 Avenue A. And I'm here to thank Mr. Brian for his plan, because this is a time for Bayonne to improve the affordable houses, because we really need it here. And I think it's a good chance now. Before in 2015, we was looking for developer. Now I think we have a lot of developer. I think this is the time even for the new construction to get involved in any affordable houses. It's a good thing. Bayonne have more than 700 people now need houses. I think COVID was a lesson to everyone. People have money, lose money, so everyone deserve a house. So it could be a chance for the new developer to offer them affordable houses with some, you already give us tax credit. It can work in now. I think the council board should to start open this for all the developer and get more affordable houses. That will be good for the town. Also, I'm one of the Coptic community. We have a lot of family, and whatever Mr. Brian just said, we do it on the house. We get hard money from us, build rehab house, helping a family need renting. So whatever he's saying, we do it on the house. So, and is way, a lot of people need help in Bayonne. So I think it's the time now to get the redeveloper to involve. It's too many ways you can offer them tax credit, bonus, apartment. You can create a lot of stuff, you know, to get help from people, have money, and they, you know, it's the time for them to help. I'm one of them, and I'm willing to do this, and I don't think so anyone will like deny this in 2025. It's way different from 2015 to now. And Bayonne is a lot of people coming every day. I can tell that's from my community. Too many Egyptian family coming in. We always look for apartment for them. We always help to rent it for them. So it's growing up. Study for all the new renter too is going up. So people moving to rent new construction here. So the community is going up, which is more affordable houses needed, which is low-income people going to be involved in the middle. So I don't think so even 700 units will be enough. He needs to be involved on all the new developer. And thank you again for opening that.
Thank you. Okay, just to make sure, is there anyone else in the public that wants to ask a question? So I think, Mr. Kamal, we normally move to comments, but
I think he made his comment, so we-
So there's no one else here that wishes to make a public comment, I don't believe. Commissioners, any comments? Okay, so at this time, I would be looking for a vote to approve.
I'll move.
I'll second.
And on the vote, Chairperson Fiamonte.
Aye.
Vice Chair Velardo.
Aye.
Commissioner Veloz.
Aye.
Commissioner Booker.
Aye.
Commissioner Locke. It's been
Thank
approved.
you. Thank you, Mr. Salon. Thank you, Mr. Ward.
Thank you for your attention
Thank you.
to this.
Pleasure.
Thank you both.
Mr. Maselli, if you'd approach the microphone, I believe that we've briefed you on the fact that 7:15 was our cutoff, so you're going to ask that this matter be carried to the July 8th without any further notice on your client's behalf?
Yes, and we would consent to an extension of the time to act. To do that, I would just ask that we would be put first on the agenda next month.
We will try to accommodate you.
Thank you very
No
much.
promises, but you know that when we say we try, we do try.
I know. I trust that
Me
you will.
too.
Okay, thank
You're
you.
welcome. So that is P-25-009, Chante 5 Urban Renewal LLC, 562-568 Broadway, Block 184, lots 1 through 3. That matter will be carried to the July 8th agenda without any further notice on the part of the applicant. Can
I'll
I get a
move.
motion and a second?
I'll move. And on the vote?
On the vote, Chairperson Fiamonte.
Aye.
Vice Chair Velardo. Commissioner Veloz.
Aye.
Commissioner Booker.
Aye.
Commissioner Locke. We have some resolutions to do this evening, and if you can bear with me, I'll just put them on. First resolution is P-25-021, the resolution for affordable housing, fourth round update to be referred to the City Council. Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
On the vote, Chairperson Fiamonte.
Aye.
Vice Chair Velardo. Commissioner Veloz.
Aye.
Commissioner Booker.
Aye.
Commissioner Locke. Next is P-24-023, J&J Builders LLC, 94-102, 104-106, and 108 Avenue F, and 101 East 21st Street, Block 457.01, lots 2, 3, 4, and 5. If the board recollects, that was for preliminary site plan approval. They will be returning for final site plan approval on that one. Can I get a motion and a second to approve that resolution?
I'll move.
Second.
On the vote, Chairperson Fiamonte.
Aye.
Vice Chair Velardo.
Aye.
Commissioner Veloz.
Aye.
Commissioner Booker.
Aye.
Commissioner Locke. Lastly is P-25-003, Nova Group Urban Renewal LLC, 474-476 Broadway, Block 205, Lot 10.01. Can I get a motion and a second?
I'll move.
I'll second.
On the vote, Chairperson Fiamonte.
Aye.
Vice Chair Velardo.
Aye.
Commissioner Veloz.
Aye.
Commissioner Booker.
Aye.
Commissioner Locke. Motion to adjourn.
Aye. I'll move.
Aye, move. Wow.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you, everyone. And for those watching and everyone here, please make sure to go out and vote. Have a good evening. Thank you.